the lights I'm going to focus on today are the Skydome light and the physical sky. Both wrap around the whole scene. This is just a simple scene which I created. This thing was initially a polygon cube, and I deleted 1, 2, 3 faces and scaled it a little bit more flat. That's all. It's just nice to have shadows and maybe the influence from a wall, etc. The objects in the scene are basically all objects from right mouse click here. A prism, that's the blue one. A pipe, that is the one with a ramp going from green over white to a yellowish tone. The helix in front, it's the only reflective material I have in the scene. And the gear, which is gray. I could have, actually I could do that, a soccer ball as well. Let's make this soccer ball here, place it here and give it a new material. And all the materials in the scene have Arnold standard surface shaders. So let's choose a color like maybe a green is missing in the scene. And we duplicate this thing, Control D, creates a copy. I move it here. I move it a little bit forward. I move it a little bit down, like this. And now Shift D, and they will sort of go all the way down. Okay, that's the scene. It has no light, so Arnold renders black. So let's just click on Arnold Lights Skydome Light. It wraps this thing around the whole scene. So the scene is tiny and the world and the sky around it is very large. So we have a nice angle here or here. And now we render it. Arnold render. It looks like a global illumination scene, which is just marvelous. I'm still amazed how fast this works. It's 8 seconds. It has some grain in the corners, of course, that has to do with the settings. So this is the only reflective material, and you see it sort of self-reflects. It doesn't do much here. It's a red in red, sometimes darker because of the reflection here, etc. All the other objects don't reflect anything, but they have nice shadows down here. Already with the pretty poor render settings, it does a marvelous job. Let's keep this image, and we keep it by clicking on this icon in the top right of the render window. Now it's here. We have it now in our memory. It will be lost once we quit Maya. Now, what happens if we map a file to this color or a procedural texture? So let's click here. That's the color of the Skydome, which is currently white. That's why this scene is so bright. So let's try a checker, for example. That's what it looks like. And let's render the whole thing again. So Maya's rendering here and here. Now it's finished. 9 seconds again. You see the reflection of the checkerboard here. And really nowhere else. But the checkerboard has a huge influence on our little scene because it dims everything. Imagine we have a sphere wrapped around the scene where half of the surface is black. Now we want to get rid of it. We click here, and here we have the Skydome Light Attributes color. We right mouse click here and break the connection. That gives us a grayish thing. That's where we started off from. Let's try a ramp. Actually, a ramp is a procedural texture as well. And the ramp should go from the top to the bottom. And since we have a sky feeling in mind, we go for maybe in the bottom part for a brownish color. More brownish like here. Darker maybe. And here, instead of the white, let's have a more precise border here. Instead of the white, we choose blue, because it should give us the impression of a sky, maybe like this. And we render it again. So it tints the whole scene with a bluish tone. And of course it would change if we move the ramp up here like this. It would all become blue and brownish now. If the blue part is only at the top of the surrounding sphere now, we get this image now. And of course we can make it brighter, but that's what this ramp does. It does basically quite a good job simulating an open atmosphere, an outdoor scene with 2 walls. So let's keep this image as well. It rendered, oh, it's still rendering here. You see here it's rendering. It will be finished in a second, 10 seconds. Okay, let's keep this image as well. So that's a procedural texture, a ramp going from brown to blue. Let's close the window again and go back here. Right mouse click, break the connection. So we're back to the original non-attributed color here. It's just a brownish tone now. And instead of a procedural texture now, we go to a file. And the file needs an input, of course. And I have a file here which is New York City at night, HDR. That's what the image looks like. And I'll show you at the end of the tutorial where the image comes from. So it's a night scene of New York City, which maps in the scene like this. We could use another kind of mapping, but I don't want to put my focus on that now. Just instead render the whole scene. And that's what it does. If we look closer, it's a dark scene, it's a night scene. We see dim objects here. The only brighter things here come from the lights in the city. Not really very interesting, but just as a demonstration for what a dark HDR background image does. Let's choose another image. This is a classical cloudy scene here. I have it from WikiCommons as well as the New York scene. As I said, I show you the sources at the end of this video. Let's choose this now and let's render it. So we have that cloudy background now. It's still rendering, I think. Yeah, now it's finished, 12 seconds. Let's pump the intensity of the light dome a little bit up. So this increases the intensity, and now you see the scene is very bright. So it uses less dark aspects of the scene. You see it rendered here. Something completely different as a background image. Let's pick something which I rendered in the last tutorial. It was a tutorial about mesh and the Orient node. And I think I called it Almost Christmas, because it has so Christmassy colors here. So that's the next rendering. It's still the Skydome, and we mapped this kind of Christmas scene to it. It tints the whole scenery we've created in a very red tone, and here you see the structure of the surrounding image work on the reflective object. But of course the whole shadows are red now, and this is very charming about Arnold, really. And you might not find this very sexy here to have this, but this is an experiment, so let's be patient and tolerant now. Okay, now I delete this thing by pressing delete. the scene is black again. Yes. Here I have all my objects and nothing else, no light. So far, I don't move the camera. We're always in the same boring viewport. And now I create Arnold lights a physical sky. The physical sky, icon-wise, looks like this, but I don't see it here. And I will let you know in a minute why that is. Let's render it. And that's the first image in the whole series which renders a sharp shadow. Rendering took 9 seconds, and of course it's too dark for us. Let's just keep this image. Here it is. And close the render tab. Now, where is the physical sky? Where is the sky? And for that purpose, I recommend to do this. Because this object, our half cube, is sitting on the ground plane. That's where the horizon is, basically. And that's why Arnold, which doesn't show the background image for this light in the viewport, but that's why Arnold renders the wonderful blue sky now. Here is the horizon line. It's a beautiful image. And you see certain things which didn't happen in the renderings before. The sharp shadows, of course, they come from the sunlight. It's an open sun, no clouds, a blue day, blue sky day, and that's where the sharp shadows come from. But not only the sharp shadows. The specularity here has the little dots on the green, actually soccer balls. They look like spheres now because they're so small. And the two harsh reflections here, they come from the sun. And we can rotate the sun if we want. And we do this by, let me make a little bit of room here. We can do this by picking the Skydome light, pressing the key E, and now we rotate it. We could actually change this in the settings of the light as well, instead of really rotating it. But you see here the changes in the sky. It's getting darker blue now. And you see how the shadows move because we are actually rotating the sun. Now you see the sun comes from the top right. We don't see it, but it works on the scene. It makes that corner, for example, appear like a triangle because the sun is coming from here and creating shadows in the scene. Actually, if we look higher, we should be able to see the sun, or maybe we do see it. Now it's facing us. Let's check where the sun actually is. Oh, it's there. See? So that's the magic of the physical sky. It doesn't help us much below that horizon surface, but it does a marvelous job for rendering outdoor scenes in different kind of light situations. Of course, you can lower the sunlight now. There's in the attribute editor of the Skydome light shape, which we're working on the physical sky actually. Here, the sub tab here, you can change several things. Here is the elevation. Now the sun is very low and it becomes very dark here. Let's go here. Now the sun is much lower and we can even lower the elevation here so the sun moves down, which is a beautiful scene again, we don't see all the details anymore. That's because the sun is in the back. And of course, we can use the physical sky without actually rendering the surrounding spheres. We just use it as a light source. Enable sun. Now the sun is gone, and I think that's much better, but for orientation it's good to have it in view. The intensity of the whole sphere like this. And for a final rendering, we will turn the sun in this direction. Isn't that a beautiful scene? We keep this image like we kept all the other images. And now let's go back in history. So that's what we had here. Let's maximize this image. The images I got from here. This is the HDR image which shows the clouds, made by Giorgio Gagliotti in early summer 2013. You find lots of these things, HDR images, here on Wiki Commons. If you go to commonswikimedia.org and type in here in the search field HDR, you find a category with HDR images. And the other image showing New York City at night, it's by Paolo Barcellos Jr. and it comes from Flickr. So it's high dynamic range as well. When you save these images into your source image folder in the project folder of Maya, you better use the highest resolution you can get. So you click on it, it makes this plus sign in the middle, and when it shows a minus, that's the highest resolution, and then right mouse click and you can save the graphic file, the image here. In German it's Grafik speichern unter, which means save file as or save image as. So have a nice day.